Yeah, so many suggestions.
Okay, they're saying it's fixed now. That's weird. Okay,
Sick. Okay, great, wonderful. Let's do this.
it's better. All right. Okay, so let's get started.
Let's get
So
started.
yeah,
Yeah.
about lockdown. Yeah, how's lockdown?
About lockdown, I mean, I came here before, to Italy before any of this really hit the fan, and
Uh-huh.
then I just got stuck here. I was supposed to be here for about a month, but then now I have no idea when I'm going back. But the good news is, like, I came here on a project, and like the people who brought me here for the project were kind enough to continue, and extend the scope of work a little bit and make sure I could like stay on. So like I'll be here for a while, but I'm busy and it's a very nice place. And like afterwards, I can take you guys on a little tour as well. So
Okay, that's great. I mean, at least you know you're busy. It's not like you're stuck in there with nothing to do, as a lot of people
yeah,
are.
I know what I do with my time. Yeah, no, it's better than that. It's good.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, let me just start with one question we got on Instagram, which is, do you have a
Right.
set
Yeah,
routine? What is your routine?
a set routine. Where routines depend on the time of the year, the phase of the moon. Like it depends on a lot of things. But at least while I'm here, or generally when I'm working at Ghost in Kolkata, like I do my best to wake up kind of early. And once I'm up, I get to the office straight away. When I'm in office, the first thing I do is I water all the plants. There are a lot of plants in Ghost Animation, so it's really like that. That keeps me very busy for at least 45 minutes. 45 minutes for watering plants at least, and then that's when I think about life and all that kind of stuff. And then I do my best not to work late nights anymore. Like maximum of maybe 10 o'clock for work. So
Okay. Yeah, that's actually one culture at NIT that you have, right? Like working late nights and stuff. So you're
yeah,
trying to get away.
exactly. And not that I'm trying, it just didn't there was a brief period just after NIT when I was working in Mumbai. And at that time, the deadlines were so extreme, so hectic in terms of, no, we need to deliver 2.5 minutes of animation within 10 days. So, like, there are five of us working. We're going to sleep in shifts. So, at any time, there are at least two people working on the project. And after that, I was so done that uh, I think after that, I needed some time to rejuvenate in a way. So I decided that, okay, this is the end of it. And obviously, it's one of those things your parents keep telling you, but you always think you know better than your parents. And you always say, no, the nighttime is my creative time. That's when I do my like best work. But that's not it. Like, you're much better off if you're well rested. And that's something I try to tell anyone who will listen, that just
Uh-huh.
make sure you get enough rest so that you can.
I mean, I agree with you, kind of. But like, obviously, it depends on, what work you're doing and whether you're able to, like,
Yeah,
have time in the morning.
right,
Okay.
exactly.
So, speaking of NID,
Speaking of
so
NID.
yeah, what is one thing that you miss about NID?
NID was like for someone who didn't agree heavily with traditional schooling. NID was where I really found everything, really, whether it was the kind of work I want to end up doing, the people I really enjoy being around. So NID was a very good experience for me that way. So like all of it, like whether it's just the campus itself, like you have your own specific nooks and crannies in the campus where you like to sit, where you like to sketch, where you like to read, or like anything. Like NID in general is very missable. I understand that it doesn't end up like that for everyone, and that's something we should also get to. That like to some people it does end up being a slightly maybe unfocused, maybe distant, maybe alienating experience as well. So I don't want to invalidate any of that by saying that it went like I was very happy to be there. But like I miss the campus a lot, and it's always a very good place to go back to for me at least.
So you went back as a faculty, right? So I think it's like you went back as a faculty to teach a course to my batch. like
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
Upamanyu.
yeah.
So how was that? Did you like it?
Hey, they're so nice. Yeah, it was a very good. It was a very good time. Really, I went back twice, so worked with the same batch twice over, and it's really good because you can like, how do I explain this? If you go back to NID with a certain amount of information that you've gathered over time, you can then go back, try passing it on, and see if it makes any sense to
Uh-huh.
if when you say it out loud, you can understand whether what you processed so far makes any sense. So
Yeah.
hopefully it did to all of the people over there. So I mean, they will tell you how it went instead of me.
Okay. Oh yeah, I've heard a lot about you from them. Okay, so there was a question in chat right now.
Yeah,
How did you discover your interest in animation?
it's just been there for a very long time, really. We've like I think most people who have ended up in animation have seen. We've all seen a lot of animation growing up because it's like it is the first thing that they give to us to distract us from like our plates or whatever it is. But there are a few people who end up. I think early on there was an experience through which I realized that it's also a thing that people do full time as grown ups. Which was, and when I realized that, it sounded like something I wanted to do full time because there was a story making workshop that happened in Kolkata when I was, I think, in forgotten which class I was in, but we had some interactions with professional animators who also were incidentally like NID pass outs,
Ooh,
and
okay.
you ask them, so you do this for a living, so they pay you to do this, and that's when you realize that okay, there were lots of people who got paid to work on animated films, and it is something you can do full time. And that's when I sought NID out and tried getting in, and yeah,
And it worked out in the end. Everything's
nah,
great.
yeah, not too bad so far.
Okay. So, all right. Here's one question we got multiple times on Instagram, which
Uh-huh.
is, does the college you go to matter when it comes to animation? What do you think?
Mm, probably no. Like I tend more towards no. Uh, not just to make it a democratic sort of answer, but am I back?
Okay. Yeah, you're back.
I told you the Wi-Fi is very spotty here. So
I,
it
even
actually just completely ducked out.
I'm also like hoping against hope because my Wi-Fi isn't like it. Even my Wi-Fi doesn't work that well. Okay.
Right.
So um
Where were we?
no wait. First of all, for the people who joined late, I'm just gonna introduce you again. This is Upamanyu Bhattacharyya, who is an IDRMS. He's a very successful animator. He has his own animation studio, Post Animations, and so today we're gonna talk with him.
Right.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm a little flustered. I forgot what we were talking about.
Yeah, and I'm getting numerous messages now saying your Wi-Fi went, and like I know, like, I'm well aware. So,
Okay. Um. Oh yeah. We were talking about like NID and animation and stuff, right? Okay.
right, right, right. Yeah.
Right. One question in chat was, how do you build up your portfolio? How did you do it, and how do you,
Like, are
recommend
you
people?
talking about while applying for NID or like
Ooh, I
afterwards?
really maybe
So
afterwards.
let's just cover both. Let's just cover both quickly for whoever wants to hear about this. Uh, Also, I remembered what we were talking about. I'll get back to that once I've answered this. Uh, I think the most useful way to make a portfolio is to first focus on the things that you love to do personally, instead of thinking that you have to check off some boxes, like you have to demonstrate a flair of typography as well as human anatomy or anything like that. So if you are very cognizant of what it is that you like to do, what defines your body of work, based on who you are, where you come from, what subjects you can claim as your own, then you'll be able to make a much more honest portfolio, and each piece will be much more substantially representative of what you can do. So it doesn't have to be a little bit of everything. It could be. I mean, if that's the kind of person you are who enjoys dabbling in everything, by all means go for it. But I think too many people feel too pressured to make something that demonstrates them to be Renaissance people when uh, and like I am very cognizant of my lack of graphic sense, so I would not try. I would not go there. I would make sure, like, if I am to do something which requires that, I'll make sure I work with someone who is good at that kind of a thing.
Okay. All right. And
So about what we were discussing just before I went off, I think we were talking about does college make a difference?
oh yeah. We were.
And the Wi-Fi helped me out by blacking out. So then, um I don't think so, no, because like we have worked with people over the last few years at Ghost who have actually had no college training whatsoever. Even people who have just like shifted gears in the middle of a completely different career, completely different field of study. It's mainly about like how you want to approach animation like as a storytelling tool. So, like, there are lots of filmmakers around the world, like you, who you meet at festivals, whose films you see online, who may not necessarily have been trained in the medium, but are still using, especially with like a much more democratic technology available. Like, anyone can animate on their systems, on their iPads, even on their mobiles. So that's the question of access has been removed. Like, access used to mean that you have to learn how to animate on paper and you have to have the whole setup to shoot it on film. It's gone now. So anyone can animate, anyone can do it, and people are. So, and afterwards, it's about finding your audience, really. So,
Mhm. Okay. So go up
yeah.
when your mother says very nice. Okay. So
So where?
uh, okay. One question was, what is one on-campus NID experience which you might want to share with us? Something like, maybe it was funny, or you were like, if something happens and you're like, oh wow, this can only happen in NID, it won't happen anywhere else.
Oh
Anything
God,
come?
so much. There's I mean, it is almost 5 years plus like the 1 year I spent hanging around in Ahmedabad worth of experience, right? So it's very difficult to like put one, like, hostel parties were one thing. Then there was, Garba's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
The academics itself is a whole different thing. You have a very like diverse range of experiences when you're trying to kind of academically make your way through NID, like from course to course, from faculty to faculty. So it's a lifetime really in there. Like, so you can't really point at a particular thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, if you guys have any questions, please ask them in the chat, and we'll try to uh, get them, through. So, okay, let's start with Wade.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
Um, I believe you started working on it while you were in college. So, if you could talk a little bit about it.
Not not while we were in college, strictly speaking, but that year I spent hanging around Ahmedabad, it would have been sometime then. Because like, full disclosure, I never finished a graduation film in NID, so that guilt really stays with you. Like, I did my best to finish as much as possible, but it eventually just didn't end up happening. But that guilt does really weigh heavy on you, and you're like, no, I should do what I was trained to do. I should make a film in that kind of a sense. So in 2016 spring, that's when things really began coming together. Like, my co-director Kalp, who I've worked with a lot throughout NID, as well as the other people who are now partners at Ghost. Like, we were all discussing some other animators and juniors who were also interested in spending the summer doing something like working on a film instead of like a run-of-the-mill internship of some kind. So all of us started discussing together, and we were of the opinion that summer would be well spent in making a film. So we thought we will make a 4 minute long film. That's it, 4 minutes. 4 minutes is the upper limit. That went out of the window. The timeline went out of the window. We were supposed to finish in 2016. Everything went out of the window, but eventually, finally, in 2019, we finished the film and we have it now. So
Okay. And like it's really successful. Like it's been going to like film festivals and everything. Did you anticipate it to be, so popular?
well, I mean, we hoped, like as every filmmaker hopes, because uh, again, films by definition, like I can't hang it on my wall once I'm done. It needs to have an audience of some sort. Film festivals are really good for that because not only like is it an actual audience of film watchers, like people who enjoy watching animated films, short films, and stuff like that, but it's also a good way to connect to people who might help you with future projects, who are like-minded in the sense of, okay, if this is your next idea, we're a community of people who do the same thing. So Wade being in festivals was definitely part of the plan. And after a point, just like college applications, you can just hope really that like it does okay-ish. And it's still early days for the festival. Like I think it's been about 1 or 2 months of festival results so far, and every film has a shelf life of maybe a year and a half. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, well, I hope it does well. So people are asking where can you see Wade? Now, Wade is gonna be online this weekend, right? If you want to tell
Yes,
people.
it is. Yeah, yeah, good plug. It's Wade is going to be online this weekend at on Sunday, the 10th, which is and it's going to be online between 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And to watch it, like there are posts on Wade the Film on Instagram which detail this process a little better. But we've found two organizations whose work we really like in the social sphere. So we're asking for donations to those organizations in exchange for the password to watch the private link of Wade this weekend. So if you would like to see the film, because again, it's going to be at least 1.5 years until the film actually goes online, a year and a half. So we thought before it does the festival run, we may as well put the film to good use. So Kalp and I decided to put the film online on Sunday. Again, you can check the post on the Instagram account of Wait the Film for more details and a plug. Yeah.
All right. So one question that's been coming up is how do you think about how do you set about like thinking about the topics of your movies?
Right. So very rarely does it come from the point of view of I will make a movie and I need a story, but it comes usually from these are the things I am really concerned about on a day-to-day basis, or these are the things I love on a day-to-day basis, or these are the things that have come to define my life. And somewhere from there you will see narrative emerging. Like we didn't even when making Wade, we did start off with a brief that we need to make a film this summer, but the concerns of the film, whether it's climate change or the city or like all the concerns we have around what post climate change India looks like, those are things we'd been thinking about for much longer, really. And then when you give yourself the impetus of making a film, you go back and pick up the trail of crumbs that you left for yourself through your life in terms of something you may have read, something you may have seen, some lecture that really stuck with you, and you kind of make a daisy chain of all of that, and you're able to piece it together into a narrative over time. So
Okay. And
yeah.
what comes after that? Like what is the process? Once you have the idea, what do you do?
After that, it has to that's when your film language, your training, so to speak, comes into play as to how do you turn it into something that someone will watch instead of you rambling like a coffee addict saying this is interesting, this is also interesting, this is also interesting, like, which you can also do, but to kind of encode it into something that people would like to view, would like to would not mind watching. And are likely to take away the message that you are hoping for. That's where, like, whether it was the film language training or the storyboarding training or the script writing training and all of that comes into play in terms of you do need to structure it in some way. There are rules for those structures. There are also ways of subverting the rules for those structures. And again, Wade was our first film, and afterwards, maybe one would do things differently. It's a process that people don't end up discovering fully for many, many years on end. But
Yeah. Um, all right. Another question is how do you decide the topics of your comics? Are they always impact oriented or like, how do you go about that?
so again, assuming I don't make too many comics, except like maybe in the last 6 months, I've suddenly decided that I want to own my skill of telling stories, especially without words, if possible. And in those situations, again, like it's been an explosive few months, right? Like there's like what is even going on with the world. So you're continuously bombarded with an overload of extremely severe information in terms of like, and it changes every day. I think thanks to the coronavirus, we've had a relatively quiet period where there's nothing except coronavirus going on. You know what I mean. But just in the run up to that, like whether October, November, December, January was just one thing after another, and you do feel like responding to it in some way. Some people make Twitter threads. Some people, make an illustration. One makes a comic. But besides the current things, besides the socially relevant things and all of that stuff, I do also have a kind of preoccupation with small things, the way people live their lives in that kind of a sense. So whether it's the same sensibility from the series I'd done last year called Humans of Kolkata, where little things that people do kind of find their way into these comics. There was one comic, for example, about an old man and a black cat, which you can find on my profile, which was actually like two isolated incidents where one was a hearse which was going with a body somewhere in Kolkata, which had a black cat sitting in it for some reason. And then on another occasion in a crematorium, there was actually in winter, like when I'd gone for a cremation, there was actually a cat warming itself on one of the furnaces, which was a mind-bogglingly weird image to take back, as in on so many levels. So I kind of put those two together in a story, so it can go many ways.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was really, really good. I
Hey, thank you.
Okay. Wait, one question we're getting multiple times is what do you think is the future of animation now post pandemic? After this whole
Right.
COVID-19 thing gets over, will it affect animation in any way? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's tough to say, and one can only be optimistic about it in terms of. Well, one thing we know for sure is that we are probably better primed at working from a distance than most other professions. Like a lot of studios around the world have very quickly adapted into a like work from home situation where animators get their workload sent to them, they upload. It's not as bad as things that actually require on-site intervention, like industry, like all that kind of stuff. And that coupled with the fact that people may end up having a lot more time on their hands to actually watch things, and this sudden appreciation that you have for the fact that okay, good, there is literature in our lives, there is music in our lives, there is film in our lives. uh, hopefully it's a good time. I am no expert as to what will happen because of the economy, whether we'll get funding or whether, I have no idea. And we're just gonna wait and see like everybody else.
Yeah, and the world is changing. Well, we have to
Nice
change with
one.
it. Yes. This is why Baatein come live now instead of being in the auditorium at NID. But this also means
Exactly.
that we
Yeah,
have
whole new world.
a much wider audience right now. There's all kinds of people watching. So Coming to ghost animation,
Right. Yeah.
is ghost animation working on any new projects?
Yeah. It is some short films. Uh, there's always like a roster of projects that we do for clients. So like there's one recurring client we have in the Wildlife Trust of India. So we're working with them again, developing a film for them. So and we're at it still, and it's a very exciting time for Ghost, honestly.
You can't give out any information about the new projects.
So one short film I can tell you about was is the next one that I'm working on personally called 10, which I put out a trailer for some time back. So
Okay.
that's a very, very, very short film compared to the 10 minutes, 38 seconds of Wade, but and it's a very different sensibility, animation style, and a very, very collaborative project in terms of like I've practically not animated for that film myself. So and that is set in 1971 Bangladesh with a Bengali poem called Haradhaনের 10টি ছেলে, 10 sons of Haradhan. So it's an adaptation of that.
So, do you think there's a lot of, Bengali influence in your work? Do you think that affects you? Like maybe your
I,
style
I
or the
think
story you use?
I think it does, and I sure hope so because like over time, a lot of people in West Bengal have very actively tried to crack the question of okay, what makes a local style, whether it was which I frequently cite as the people who tried making an art movement in Shantiniketan, people who came out of Kala Bhavan, Satyajit Ray being one of them, who found very local inspirations as well as distinctly Asian inspirations to kind of try making something indigenous from here. So at least from a point of view of okay, if I am to base it on something instead of anime or instead of French cartoon or instead of Mad Magazine, maybe it's a interesting point of departure to see like what these guys were trying to do. Very good work has come out of there. So
Yeah. Okay. So, just a second. Let me look at
yeah,
the guys. If you have any questions, keep asking them in chat. I'm going through it. Um. So, what are the challenges you faced in setting up ghost animation, and how did you overcome any challenges?
like throughout Ghost animation.
Um, that's from the starting, like when you first got the idea that we create this thing called the studio called Ghost Animation. So how was that?
Right. Again, it's not. It never started as a we will make a studio mission. It started more from the point of view of we were all friends and we had helped each other out many times before, and we kept helping each other out, and we would not stop helping each other out, work on different things, bring things to life. So after a point, since we were working together, since we were sharing the same space for a long time, and in said sharing of the space, good things were coming out of that sharing. Uh, that's when we decided to formalize things in terms of okay, let's get some paperwork done. Let's call this something, and it's been pretty good so far. The standard problems of industry, which you will hear exist everywhere. Whether it's delayed payments, a project that drags on for much longer than it's supposed to, finishing your own work, like your own films in the middle of everything else that you have to do to pay the bills. Those exist everywhere and they're not exclusive to us in any way. But there is a definite strength in having five people to share that with, five extremely capable people who are at the top of their game as well. So it's really good that way, and I definitely suggest, like, since this is for NID, like largely through Baatein, to consider at least the possibility of once you leave NIT to stick together with people you work well with in some way or another and see how it goes. And not you don't instantly have to set up a company, you don't have to rent studio space right away, but like just try sticking together, try making things together, and see how it goes. Give it a year or something, and uh, maybe good things can come out of that.
Okay. So okay, this question again. It's coming up a lot, which is what is the story behind the logo of Ghost Animation?
Well, the logo and the name I think we just came up with when we were all traveling back from Park Street and the Kolkata metro. Is just something that stuck with us because it works on multiple levels for different people. Animation works because of the ghost of the last image left behind, or we all have personal fascinations with spirits and this and that. So Ghost was a name that kind of stuck. And then we brought in Vishnu Nair, who is a phenomenal uh, graphic artist, illustrator. You can follow him on X Ishnu if you haven't already. And we asked him, the word is ghost, do your thing, like, just see what you come up with. And that's when he gave us a bunch of options. We toyed with the idea of spirit animals in particular, and in the sense there's so even now you'll see that every person in Ghost has a separate interpretation of the Ghost logo themselves. Like I'm an otter, for example, with the head sliced off and those two dots. So it was a very customizable identity as well. So anyone who comes to Ghost also has to make their ghost animal. So
I
anyone who works at Ghost is a
why an otter? Why are you an otter?
why an otter? Yeah, otters are just they're really cool. They hold hands when they sleep. They're hairy and they're smart and they can swim and they're really cool. Yeah.
Okay. They're cute. Yeah, I know. I love their faces, tiny faces.
Yeah, they're so nice. And
Okay.
like when we were traveling in the US, my fiance and I, we also saw like a lot of otters up close in Monterey Aquarium. And since then, like I think both of us have had a deep fascination for those creatures. Like in particular, sea otters. They're much nicer than the normal Weasley otters. So,
Yeah. Are those the ones that like float on their backs and stuff?
exactly, it is like yeah, very good.
They can sleep while floating, right? I think I saw that somewhere.
Exactly, and they sleep while holding hands. And
Wow. Speak to spirit animal. Oh my god.
yeah,
Okay. So, oh, okay. I'm just gonna get this question out of the way because a lot of people are asking it. How do you get an
right.
internship at Ghost Animation?
So, well, I mean, number one, we're really going to have to rethink what an internship even means nowadays because I don't know when we're going to be able to like have people in the studio again. We've been out of the studio ourselves, locked out for many months now. So the only person in our studio is the only two people in our studio right now are Saksham Arora and Neeraj, who's making his graduation project there called Record Play Stop. And uh, so even for him, it's not the ideal graduation project experience where he's locked in the studio that he's supposed to work in. So we have no idea when things are going to get back to normal. But if you want to like work with us in any way, if we figure out a way of doing this online or something or the other, you can always just like leave your work in on the Ghost website. There is a work tab where you can leave your work links and all that stuff. Anyone we have ever worked with, we have got from there, like from people who have like left their work on the work tab in the Ghost website, ghostanimation.in. So yeah,
And is it necessary to have a degree in animation?
no, no, it really isn't.
So it just depends on your work, and you just submit it on the website, right?
Pretty much, like, and we have worked with very like we didn't know why that we would end up working with some of the people that we ended up working with. It's not like so it may happen very suddenly. It may happen for a very specific project. Who knows? So,
Okay. Um. So you have a characteristic style of animation. So
mhm.
how do you how did you go about developing that style, and how do you make a style of your own?
Again, like just like the subjects of the work that you want to make, whether it's for your portfolio or the films you want to make, again, the style is much more a factor of what are the things that you like personally. So, like I gave you my examples of wanting to go back to the work that was made uh, in West Bengal for the last many years as a point of reference, because I felt that is something I could get in on and call kind of sort of my own. Uh, so more than developing a style, really, like I think what people need to talk much more about is finding the things you like to talk about, if that makes any sense. And when doing said thing, like whether it's a comic or whether it's an illustration, I think just like just like you pick words which are appropriate for a certain kind of writing, you will pick tools appropriate for that particular kind of
Yeah.
expression, and you will pick a certain line quality and a certain color scheme. And then once you've made that bit of work and another bit of work that fits the same overall umbrella of what it is that you have to say personally, therein a body of work and a style will emerge. So I don't think
So
anyone has to tie themselves down to I am a black and white person and I use sharp lines and my eyes are always dots. Like that's too narrow in terms of
basically, you have to choose, what style works for what message you're trying to put across.
exactly, yeah, yeah. And more than anything, defining yourself as a artist or filmmaker or whatever is what do people come to expect from you in terms of a message? Like what are the themes you like to explore? What are the you know
Okay. Oh, is there a podcast with you?
Hey Karan, yeah, there is a podcast. Yeah, these things are just going by at the speed of light down there. There is a
I
podcast on YouTube. You can check it out on We Are Follow on YouTube. So shout out to them. Had a very nice time recording a podcast with them last November. So yeah,
Yes. Um, Let me just go through this list of questions again.
yikes, yeah.
Okay, so Amin Ali Shanavas had asked this question on Instagram, which is, what is one habit for life which a storyteller must have?
Have all the habits you want, man. If you want to, if you really like making food, for example, if you like cooking, do more of that. It'll fuel your work. You don't have to like there is no particular make sure you get up and meditate or make sure you wake up and do 15 minutes of sketching. I do know that especially sometimes you may receive instruction to the end that if you're not turning out enough work, you're not doing or if you're not making your 100 sketches a day, you're not doing the best that you can be doing. But like maybe we can, especially in these post-COVID times, we can shift away from that just a little bit and just fuel yourself with the things that you really like doing. So basically, in a sense, make time for yourself. Give yourself time to do the things that you love, and that will make for much better work.
Okay. Oh, so is there any section where I can drop my resume for ghost animation?
Yeah, I told you guys. There's
Sorry.
ghostanimation.in/work.
Okay. Um. Oh wow. One second. Um, okay. So, what do you have any tips for people who are just beginning with animation? What would you like to tell them?
I would say, see, the skills are very easy to pick up. Like the like skills are, you can keep updating yourself in terms of skills, in terms of the newest software, in terms of whatever it is. But more than that, more than the skills, maybe you give yourself a project that you like, that you would like to do, and acquire the skills around it. And by the time you're done with that project, you won't be a beginner anymore. So, like even when we started with Wade, it wasn't. we didn't have a ton of experience animating. We'd done a few title sequences, we'd done the assignments at NIT, but by no means had we made a 10-minute, 38-second film. But once you give yourself that and you're like, okay, I don't have the skills required to do this project yet, but it'll give you a much clearer idea as to what skills you do need to pick up. So whether it's a question of, okay, this project needs better color sense because I'm not satisfied with the color sense that I'm bringing to this project already, then maybe you can go back, do color study. So once you have that guiding project as a kind of, as your eventual goal, it may help pick up skills along the way in terms of focusing you onto what you need to learn.
Okay, that's a wonderful approach. Uh, Tarun asked something in chat, which is what is the one thing for Upamanyu? I'm sorry, I forgot the context of that, but
I think it was maybe to do with the one habit that one must have.
or one habit.
I honestly don't know because like I wish I could give you a dazzling answer to that, but I don't have one in terms of I think every phase of your life is so different. You may feel like doing work, you may not feel like doing work, something may be coming to you or not coming to you. I think it's just more important to be okay with that than decide that I need this one daily thing that I must do. If you're a writer and it's not coming to you on a particular day, I don't think there's any hack or yogasan that'll make you write magically. So I think more than anything, it's a daily habit of coming to an understanding with yourself in terms of, okay, this is where I can stop. It's okay, more than anything else.
Okay. Um, so like okay, apart from animation and work and all,
Right.
what hobbies do you have?
Uh, I do enjoy reading. I told you about my gardening habits. I'm continuing that over here as well. Uh, I'm being able to do that. I really enjoy cooking and making food, so I'm doing that here as well. Obviously, I do like watching movies a lot. I enjoy memorizing rap lyrics, but
Wow.
not rapping them as well. So, there are lots of such weird, quirky things that everyone has to themselves. So like, yeah.
So like right now in lockdown, are these the things that
Mhm.
you get through this lockdown, or is there anything else, which you do? Like how do you
Uh,
how are you getting through this?
well, like I said, it's good to have the project that I'm here for as the main thing. Your friends keep you going through lockdown. Your family keeps you going through lockdown. So that's another very important uh, thing that, yeah, you just have to make sure you're available and there for the people who love you and who you love. So, I mean, getting through lockdown per se is like I'd credit it much more to them than to my hobbies or any other thing really. So it's them that are keeping me sane, and hopefully I'm being able to give that back as well.
Okay. Um. Okay. This is interesting question. A little bit. थोड़ा ऊपर in chat. It was why
Okay.
do Indian animators mostly choose 2D animation? What do you have to say to that?
Why does who?
Why do Indian animators mostly choose 2D animation?
What? No. It's there is a very large 3D market in India as well. Lots of very skilled 3D artists, and mainly, if you're asking about why like a lot of NID films end up being 2D, is because we're trained in 2D, and I think it's a very good starting point to be able to draw the kind of movement that you want to see. and and for us at Ghost, like we genuinely love it in terms of like all of the graphic opportunities that it presents. Like it can look so many different ways based on the many different ways in which you can draw. So
And okay, on the back of that question, for animation, do you need what is more important? Is it like not more important, but are your sketching skills important, or your story writing skill important? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want to be, really. If you want to be an animation filmmaker or a filmmaker as a whole, like you do have a need to be as interested in everything, really, like, and not just in terms of books on film language. Like a very good filmmaker will be able to tell you about ships incessantly, like as in they're just genuinely actively interested in a whole lot of different things. Uh, so I mean, if you are like that, if you do like reading way outside your area of expertise, listening to people, the news, if all of that fuels your interest, then good, that might make for good filmmaking. But if you have tasked yourself with the fact that, okay, maybe films are not my thing, I don't enjoy writing, I don't enjoy any of that, and I really want to focus on my craft of animator, like, and be the best animation I've ever seen, then it would make sense to drawing on your soft skills, because then it's kind of Zen practice of like I will get very good at this one thing like sushi making or something, which you're also like it's really up to you in which direction you want to take it. But if skills are your thing, if that's what you want to be known for, then it will involve a certain amount of rigor and practice.
Okay. And personally, would you identify as an artist or a designer? How what do you think?
I have no idea. One can identify as multiple things, really. So I mean, I guess currently I make animated movies. So,
So you're an animator.
well, yeah. I mean, or am I a filmmaker, or am I an illustrator? I don't think one has to commit to any of that, really. Uh, so I know in NID you get asked a lot, like, but this is more of an art project. It is not a design project. But well, okay then, because like different projects are good for different things.
Okay. Vama and Purvanshi just asked a question in chat. How do you make it as an illustrator? Do you have any advice?
Ooh. Well, again, like at the risk of repeating myself, it's really about finding your voice in terms of like what are you known to say more than how are you known to draw. Um, because I think just going on the fact that okay, that person has very interesting shapes and only shapes can only go so far. There are exceptions to that, of course, but like when you're known for, let's say, a very in-depth understanding of plant life, just for example, then people know to come to you for that kind of thing. You are more likely to connect with specific people who would like that kind of work in terms of like again it's kind of a finding your audience thing, and there is a lot to be said about putting your work out there, and all of that is there, but more than anything it's about again the kind of illustrations I make, what are they about mainly.
So you
uh,
having an identity or something would help when it
I
comes to
think so. I would like I do believe so in terms of how do I put this? Like there are a lot of illustration jobs out there that need just pure skill, and the more you can demonstrate that, the more likely you are to get gigs in that field. But I think the more you're known for, beyond just executing a brief, but being able to say something much more than you were tasked with, when you are able to make images that do more in a way work for you much more than like the basic version of it. I think that's when people start coming to you for your like as an equal creative input instead of more than just a hand to execute.
okay. So right now watching us, we have a lot of NID aspirants. So
Right. Okay.
anything to say to them? Maybe like some how do you approach the entrance exam and stuff like that?
Such a long time ago. No, it was. I don't think. Again, I don't know what the most recent format for the entrance exam is. So any actual information I will give you will be obsolete by far. But I do think that like if NID is your thing and if you do want to pursue it, if you want to join this college, you can. I think it's important to just be aware of what you would like to do with that once you've got it. In terms of okay, great, you've gotten into NID, but do you want to be a product designer? Do you want to be a graphic designer? If you do want to be a graphic designer, are you already aware of what it entails in the current ecosystem? Like, because as everyone knows, it's much more than just drawing. It's not. Uh, I think purely sharpening your drawing skills before entering NID is slightly redundant. But so once you have that awareness and once you've developed interests that will point you in that direction better, you have a much better chance of getting along with everyone in the campus. You'll have a much better chance at finding your crowd and being able to do good work once you're there. So,
Okay. So it's been almost an hour, so we'll just take a few questions now.
yeah, sure, sure.
Okay. So how was your experience in presenting the film at Srishti and other design schools?
Yeah, the tour that we did with the four animated short films last year towards the end was really cool. And obviously, the campuses were like whether it's Srishti campus, NID campus, whoever, like it was just the most enthusiastic and it was really good. Like, there's nothing quite like a good audience, really. And feels very because again, you make your film for an audience and you do want a reaction in some way like because you need to know whether your moments are landing if it's funny are people laughing if it's scary are people jumping you need to see that to gauge your like it's a very primal thing that you need to see that it's working on that level for people. So it was really good for us to see our audience firsthand that way.
Okay, hello everyone. We ran out of time on that live stream, I think. So we're just gonna get Upamanyu back and sort of end it, like end it in a proper way. Just waiting. Yeah, there you go.
Ah,
Hi.
yeah,
Yeah, ran
yeah.
out of time live stream, so
Yeah.
just
Put
few more questions and then I guess we're done.
yes.
All right. Okay, one question which again showed up multiple times was what do you have any suggestions for videos to watch or anything to do when you're learning animation by yourself?
There's uh, there's so much out there that it's a little difficult to put a specific like a particular tutorial that helped would probably be Alex Greg has a very nice tutorial. Just type Alex Greg Photoshop onto into Vimeo and you will get a very good tutorial. But like any problem you have, you can actually just type out that specific problem into the search bar and you will get videos telling you how to animate so and so, and you will probably find someone who's done it and was kind enough to put that information out there. So, no dearth of good instruction out there.
Yeah, the internet is endless. You'll always find something on it, right?
Yeah. No one didn't get a project done for the lack of a good tutorial on the subject. So,
Okay. And all right, this is just one last question, I guess. really, really, fun question, which is what is some books or movies that have inspired you?
Some books on movies. There's a of the lot. I think there's a book called Truffaut Hitchcock, which is so there are lots of books on film theory. There's that lots of like Carriers to Cinema has a lot of published like reviews, essays, and all of that stuff. But something about Truffaut Hitchcock was the conversational nature of it. It was like being in a podcast with Hitchcock. And there, like in all of his informality and all of his whatever, he was really unraveling his process. And again, in that, he was kind of showing us who he is and what he likes. And that, again, that is the base of a filmmaker. Like, who am I? What do I like? And what do I want to say? So that's a book I would definitely recommend. It's really good. Yeah.
Okay. And all right, I think it was wonderful talking to you, Upamanyu.
Likewise. Yeah.
We'll be putting this live stream up. I guess we've been recording this, so we'll be putting it
Oh,
up so
okay.
people.
Cool.
And I think we'll also like sort of edit a sort of highlights reel or something, which we'll put up
Yeah,
on
that'll
our.
be really cool. That'll be really cool. Yeah.
Anyone who missed this can also catch up on it. And so one last thing, anything. There's a lot of people looking up to you, Upamanyu. So what do you want to say to them?
Uh, I don't know. Just go ahead and make the things you want to make. Really, like this is our moment. It is always like it's getting easier and easier to make the kind of things we want to make. There's no reason not to anymore. And if possible, like I said earlier, please stick together. And animation, especially, is not a. It can be, but it's much more fun. It can be a lone process, but it's much more fun if it's not. If it's a community effort, it's a so if you have people you enjoy working with, please just tell them that I like working with you. We've worked together well before. Can we keep working together on one more thing? Or would you help me out doing this project that I'm trying to do? So the more you reach out to people that you're comfortable working with, maybe we will have eventually a lot of small but happy studios or like little clusters over the country who are doing really good work based on the things that they love. And that'll be very valuable. That'll be very valuable in kind of shifting gears.
And some beautiful words. Thank you so much, Upamanyu, for doing this with us.
You
And
stay
it was
safe. And yeah.
and thanks to all the people who came out for the live stream.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be having more live streams soon. So keep follow Baatein.nid. Keep looking out for stuff. We might have another live stream on Friday. So we'll look at that.
All right.
Um, well, shout out to David for making the poster for this live stream.
Oh
This
yeah,
is up.
very nice. Like I had a stuffed tiger downstairs which I was gonna keep on my shoulder, but like yeah.
That's so cute. Okay. Well, thank you everyone, and I guess we'll be ending this live stream here. So goodbye.
All right. Take care everyone. Bye.